October 14, 2019. I remember because the radiator was making that ticking sound, the metallic clicking old heating systems make when they're first waking up for the season. The apartment smelled like dust and something else. Something sweet, almost floral, but underneath it there was this staleness. Like air that had been sitting too long in a closed room. I'd been in my new place for exactly 6 hours when I found the box. The building was a 4-story walk-up on Chambers Street in Trenton, New Jersey. Built in 1923, according to the bronze plaque by the front door that nobody ever looked at. My unit was 3B, a 1-bedroom with original hardwood floors that the landlord was very proud of, and a water heater closet in the hallway that he mentioned exactly once during the showing. Tankless system, he'd said, tapping the door. Very efficient. I didn't open that closet until I needed to find the circuit breaker. The circuit breaker wasn't in there. Just the water heater, some exposed pipes wrapped in that foam insulation that looks like pool noodles, and a gap behind the unit where the wall met the floor. That's where I saw the corner of the shoebox. It was wedged in tight, pushed back into that space like someone had hidden it on purpose. I had to lie flat on my stomach and reach my arm all the way back to pull it out. The cardboard was soft from humidity, and when I lifted the lid, I found 13 cassette tapes inside. Now, I need you to understand something. I'm 34 years old. I grew up with cassette tapes. I had a boombox with a tape deck until I was maybe 11 or 12. So when I saw these tapes, my first thought wasn't, what the hell are these ancient artifacts? It was recognition. It was almost nostalgic. Each tape had a white label on the front, the kind you'd get from an office supply store. And on each label, written in blue ballpoint pen, was a date. Nothing else. Just the date. I arranged them on my kitchen counter in chronological order. The earliest was labeled March 3, 2018. Then there were gaps, some weeks apart, some months. April 19, 2018. June 2, 2018. June 3, 2018. That was interesting. 2 days in a row, then nothing until September. The dates continued through 2019, but they became more frequent toward the end. The last 3 tapes were dated October 9th, October 10th, and October 11th, 2019. I'd moved in on October 14th. Whoever made these recordings had been in this apartment 3 days before I arrived. I didn't have a tape player. I don't think I'd touched a cassette since high school. So I did what anyone would do in 2019. I ordered a cheap portable player off Amazon, the kind that converts tapes to MP3. It arrived 2 days later, on October 16th. I plugged in my headphones, inserted the first tape, and pressed play. For about 10 seconds, there was nothing but that familiar hiss of blank tape. Then a woman's voice, soft and slightly hoarse, like she'd just woken up or been crying. March 3rd, she said. First recording. Her name was Dana. She introduced herself on that first tape, though she never gave a last name. She said she was starting the recordings because her therapist had suggested journaling, but she'd never been good at writing things down. Talking was easier. Her voice had this quality to it, measured, careful, like she was choosing each word deliberately. She talked about her job for a while. She worked at a veterinary clinic on Route 1, the overnight shift mostly, monitoring animals recovering from surgery. She said she liked the quiet. I listened to the first 3 tapes that night. They were ordinary in a way that made me feel guilty for listening, like I was reading someone's diary. Dana talked about her sister who lived in Colorado. She talked about a book she was reading, something about mushrooms and forest ecology. She mentioned a neighbor who played guitar too loud on weekends. Normal things. The kind of details that make up a life. But on the fourth tape, dated June 2, 2018, her voice changed. There was a tension in it that hadn't been there before. "Something happened at work tonight," she said. "I'm not sure how to explain it." She paused for so long I thought the tape had ended. Then she continued. "There's this dog, a beagle mix, came in for a tumor removal 3 days ago. Sweet animal. Keeps trying to lick anyone who comes near the kennel. Tonight I was doing my rounds, and when I got to his cage, he was standing in the far corner facing the wall. Just standing there, completely still. I said his name, Biscuit, I know, but I didn't name him and he didn't move. Didn't even twitch. I opened the cage door and called him again. Nothing. So I stepped inside and touched his back, and he turned around, and I swear to you." Her voice cracked slightly. "His eyes were open, but it was like he wasn't seeing me. He looked through me. Past me. At something behind me. And his tail was wagging, but slowly. Too slowly. Like it wasn't him doing it. Like something else was moving it for him. I turned around, and there was nothing there. Just the wall. But Biscuit kept wagging his tail at it for another 30 seconds. I counted. I paused the tape. I was sitting on my couch in the dark. I hadn't turned the lights on when the sun went down, and the radiator was ticking again. That same metallic clicking. I looked around my apartment, at the shadows in the corners, at the hallway leading to the water heater closet. I told myself it was just a tired woman talking about a weird moment with a dog. Animals do strange things sometimes. But I didn't press play again that night. I went to bed with the lights on, which I hadn't done since I was a child. The next morning, I did something I'm not proud of. I searched for Dana online. I didn't know her last name, but I knew she worked at a veterinary clinic on Route 1, the overnight shift, sometime in 2018. There are only 4 animal hospitals on that stretch of road. I called the first one and asked if they had an employee named Dana. They didn't. The second one put me on hold for 3 minutes, then said they couldn't give out employee information. The third one, a place called Millstone Animal Care, went silent when I asked. Then the woman on the phone said, "Are you a family member?" I said I was. I don't know why. The lie came out before I could stop it. The woman's voice softened. "I'm so sorry," she said. "Dana was wonderful. Everyone here misses her." I asked what happened, keeping my voice steady, trying to sound like someone who already knew and was just looking for details. "The accident," the woman said. "On Route 1. October 12th, were you not at the service?" I said I couldn't make it. I said I was out of state. She offered her condolences again and hung up. I sat there staring at my phone for a long time. October 12th, 2019. 2 days before I moved in. 3 days after the last tape was recorded. Dana had died in a car accident on Route 1. And her tapes were still here, hidden behind the water heater, waiting for me to find them. I should have stopped listening. I know that now. I knew it then. But I couldn't. There were 9 more tapes, and each one felt like a threat I needed to follow. I told myself I owed it to her somehow. To hear what she'd recorded. To know what she'd experienced in this apartment before it became mine. The June 3rd tape, the day after the incident with Biscuit, started differently. No introduction, no date announcement. Just Dana's voice, closer to the microphone, almost whispering. "It's in my apartment now," she said. "I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe it. But it's here. I can feel it in the walls. In the spaces between things. Last night I woke up at 3 a.m. and the radiator was clicking, and I just knew that if I opened my eyes, I would see something I couldn't unsee. So I kept them closed. I kept them closed until morning." She talked about the clicking a lot in the following tapes. The radiator, the pipes, the sounds the building made at night. She said it wasn't random. She said there was a pattern to it, like a code she couldn't crack. 3 clicks, then silence, then 7 clicks, then silence, she said on the July tape. Every night. Same pattern. I've started writing them down. I paused the recording and looked at my own radiator. It had been clicking since I moved in. I'd assumed it was normal. I'd never thought to count. That night, I sat in the dark with a notebook and a pen. The heat kicked on around 11 p.m., and the clicking started. I made a mark for each click, leaving spaces for the silences. 3 clicks. Silence. 7 clicks. Silence. 4 clicks. Silence. 3 clicks. I filled 2 pages before the radiator went quiet. I looked at the marks and tried to find a pattern. 374374. It repeated. Over and over. The same sequence Dana had described, plus one more number. I told myself it was coincidence. I told myself old buildings make predictable sounds. But I didn't sleep that night. The August tape was the longest one. Almost 90 minutes. Dana talked about her childhood for the first half, growing up in a small town in Pennsylvania, her father's hardware store, the creek behind her elementary school where she and her sister used to catch crawfish. It felt like she was trying to ground herself in something real, something solid. Then her voice shifted. "I saw it today," she said. "In the bathroom mirror. Not a reflection. Not my reflection, I mean. Something standing behind me. But when I turned around, there was nothing there. And when I looked back at the mirror, it was gone. But the mirror was fogged, like someone had been breathing on it." I want to stop here and say something directly to you. I know how this sounds. I know you're probably thinking I was letting myself get carried away, that I was projecting Dana's fears onto my own experience. And maybe you're right. Maybe I was. But I need you to understand that I am not someone who scares easily. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in curses or demons or things that go bump in the night. I believe in psychology. I believe in the power of suggestion. I believe in the human brain's ability to create patterns where none exist. But that night, after I listened to the August tape, I went to my bathroom to brush my teeth. And when I looked in the mirror, there was condensation on the glass. A small patch, right at eye level. Like someone had breathed on it. And I live alone. And I hadn't taken a shower. And the window wasn't open. I wiped it away with my sleeve, and underneath, the mirror was cold. Colder than it should have been. Colder than the air in the room. I told myself the building's humidity was uneven. I told myself there was a logical explanation. I didn't look in that mirror again for a week. September's tape introduced a new element. Dana had started talking to her neighbor, the one with the guitar. His name was Marcus, and he'd lived in the building for 6 years. She asked him if he'd ever noticed anything strange about apartment 3B. About the sounds at night, the feeling of being watched, the cold spots that seemed to move from room to room. Marcus had gone quiet for a moment, she said. Then he'd asked her how long she'd been living there. She said 14 months. He said the previous tenant had lasted 8 months. The one before that, 4. People don't stay long in that unit, he'd told her. They never say why. They just leave. I paused the tape and picked up my phone. I still had my landlord's number from when I'd signed the lease. I texted him a simple question: how many tenants had lived in 3B before me? He responded an hour later. A few, he wrote. It's a popular unit. Why? I asked if he could be more specific. He didn't reply that night. But the next morning, there was a voicemail on my phone. Look, he said, sounding tired, I don't know what you've heard, but that apartment is perfectly safe. The previous tenants had their own reasons for leaving. Personal stuff. Nothing to do with the building. Let's just leave it at that, okay? He didn't answer when I called back. But I had another source now. Marcus, the neighbor with the guitar. Apartment 3A. I knocked on his door that evening. The man who answered was in his 50s, gray at the temples, with reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. He looked at me for a long moment before speaking. You're the new one, he said. Not a question. From 3B. I asked if we could talk. He glanced down the hallway toward my door, then stepped aside to let me in. I wondered how long it would take, he said. They always come knocking eventually. Marcus made coffee. His apartment was the mirror image of mine, same layout but reversed, and it felt wrong somehow, like looking at a photograph flipped backward. He sat across from me at his kitchen table and asked what I'd found. I told him about the tapes. He nodded slowly, unsurprised. Dana, he said. She was a good person. Quiet. Kept to herself mostly. But she started asking questions after a few months. Same questions you're probably asking now. I asked him what happened to her. Car accident, he said. Route 1. Hit a guardrail at 70 miles per hour. No other vehicles involved. They said she fell asleep at the wheel. But you don't think that's what happened, I said. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he said, the night before she died, she knocked on my door around 2 a.m. She was shaking. Couldn't stop shaking. She said she'd seen something in her bedroom. Something standing at the foot of her bed, watching her. She said it didn't have a face, but she could feel it smiling. She asked if she could sleep on my couch. I said yes. She left for work the next evening. I never saw her again. I went back to my apartment and listened to the October tapes. October 9th, 10th, and 11th. The final 3 recordings. Dana's voice on these was different, flatter, more distant, like she was reciting from a script. It's always been here, she said on the 9th, I understand that now. It didn't follow me home from the clinic. It was waiting here. In the walls. In the spaces between things. It was waiting for someone to listen. On the 10th, she barely spoke at all. Just 45 minutes of breathing, occasionally interrupted by the clicking of the radiator. I counted the pattern. 374. 374. The final tape. October 11th, 2019. I almost didn't play it. I sat with it in my hands for 20 minutes, feeling the weight of it, the smooth plastic shell, the small window where you could see the brown ribbon inside. I thought about throwing it away. I thought about driving to the Delaware River and dropping it in. I thought about a lot of things. Then I put it in the player and pressed play. There was no introduction this time. No date. Just Dana's voice, clearer than it had been on any of the other recordings, as if she were speaking directly into my ear. "If you're listening to this," she said, "then you found the box. I hid it because I knew someone would come after me. Someone always comes. The apartment needs someone. It feeds on attention. On fear. On the space we create inside ourselves when we start to wonder if we're alone." She paused. I could hear her breathing. "I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm getting in my car and I'm driving until I can't drive anymore. I don't think it will let me go. But I have to try." Then she said something that made me stop the tape. "If you're in this apartment right now, listening to this, don't look at the water heater closet. Don't open the door. I know you already did, to find the tapes, but don't do it again. That's where it watches from. That's the space between things. I can hear it in there right now, clicking against the pipes, counting down to something I don't understand. 374. Always 374. I think it's a date. I think it's the tape cut off. Not gradually, like she'd stopped recording. Abruptly. Like someone had pressed the stop button for her." I looked at the water heater closet. The door was closed. I hadn't touched it since the day I found the tapes. But now that I was staring at it, I noticed something I hadn't before. The gap at the bottom, between the door and the floor. It was darker than it should have been. Not shadow dark. Absence dark. Like the space behind that door went deeper than the dimensions of the closet should allow. And as I watched, I heard it. 3 clicks. A long silence. 7 clicks. Another silence. 4 clicks. I want to tell you I left that night. I want to tell you I packed a bag and drove to a motel and never went back. But that's not what happened. I stayed. I've been staying. It's been 4 months now. The radiator still clicks in that pattern every night, 374, 374, and I still count along without meaning to. The bathroom mirror still fogs up sometimes when I haven't showered. And sometimes, late at night, I hear breathing from the water heater closet. Slow and rhythmic. Like something waiting. I've done the math on the pattern. 374. March 7th, 2004. I looked it up. That's the date the building had a fire. 3rd floor. 1 casualty. A man named Harold Pemberton, who had lived in apartment 3B for 23 years. The fire started in the water heater closet. Electrical malfunction, according to the report. But I found a digitized copy of the local paper from that week, and there was a quote from a neighbor. He'd been acting strange for months, the neighbor had said. Talking to himself. Talking to the walls. Said there was something living in the pipes. I should move. I know that. Every logical part of my brain is screaming at me to break the lease and leave. But here's the thing, and I'm not sure how to explain this, I don't want to. Or I can't. Or there's no difference anymore between the two. The apartment feels like mine now. The sounds feel like my sounds. The clicking feels like a language I'm slowly learning to understand. Dana was wrong about one thing. It doesn't feed on fear. It feeds on presence. On the simple act of being here, occupying this space, filling the emptiness between the walls. Last week, I started making my own recordings. I bought a cassette player with a recording function, found one at a thrift store on Hamilton Avenue, and I've been documenting what I experience. The sounds. The sensations. The moments when I feel something watching from the water heater closet. I'm not sure who I'm making them for. Myself, maybe. Or maybe whoever finds them after I'm gone. I've been hiding them in the same place Dana hid hers. It feels right. Like continuing a conversation that started long before either of us arrived. I'm recording this now, actually. It's 2:47 a.m. on February 19, 2020, and the radiator just stopped clicking. It's never stopped before. Not once, in 4 months of living here. The silence is louder than the sound ever was. I can feel the apartment holding its breath. Waiting. I don't know what it's waiting for. But I think I'm about to find out. There's one more thing I need to tell you. When I looked up Harold Pemberton, the man who died in the fire, I found his obituary. It listed his survivors. He had one daughter. Her name was Dana Pemberton. She would have been 7 years old when he died. She would have been 32 in 2018, when she moved into his old apartment and started making recordings about the things she heard in the walls. I don't think she knew. Or maybe she did. Maybe that's why she came here in the first place. The water heater closet door is open now. I didn't open it. It was closed when I started recording, and now it's not. I can see the darkness inside, and it's not the kind of darkness that light can fix. It's deeper than that. Fuller. Like it's been waiting for me to notice it. Like it's been waiting for me to understand. I'm going to stop recording now. I'm going to put this tape behind the water heater with the others. And then I'm going to close the closet door, and I'm going to go to bed, and tomorrow I'm going to pretend this never happened. That's what you do, I think. That's how you survive in apartment 3B. You listen, and you learn, and you don't look too closely at the things that don't want to be seen. Dana was wrong about one more thing. It doesn't want to hurt us. It just wants to be heard. And now it has been. Now we both have been. Good night. I should clarify something before I go. I didn't find these tapes. I didn't move into an apartment in Trenton and discover a box behind a water heater. I made that up. Or I thought I did. I wrote this story in my head while falling asleep 3 weeks ago, and I've been trying to get it out ever since. The thing is, I live in a studio apartment in Philadelphia. 3rd floor. And last night, when I got home from work, there was a shoebox on my kitchen counter. I don't own any shoeboxes. I live alone. And inside were 13 cassette tapes, each one labeled with a date. The last one is dated tomorrow.